I've got Roly and Phillipa Ellis with me. Roly is being a businessman in the farming sector. He was approached by local farmers in the Tararua to become on council. He then ran a successful mayoralty campaign and was in that position for 6 years. He has developed hearing loss gradually over time. He was in the services in British, in the tanks. It would have contributed to his current hearing status. Came into the Life Unlimited service at a period when the hearing was becoming more challenging in terms of his work environment. And also Phillipa here acknowledges that it was getting more harder at home as well. But probably the work environment was the first trigger for you, Roly, coming in and seeking help. So this conversation was about a Christmas Day a couple of years ago, where the struggles that Roly had. So I'm just going to ask Phillipa just to briefly recap that.
There were 10 or 12 of us around the table, a rectangular table, and lots of us were sharing experiences because people, most of the couples had actually been in the services, so they all had shared experiences with Roly. But every now and again, somebody would say something, and Roly would think his response would be so left field that he ended up being like the laughing stock of the day, in that way. He was very good about it, but he did find it really hard. And the more he didn't hear things, the funnier it became for us, which was even harder for him.
And Roly, while this was unpacking, how did it feel to you?
Well, I thought it was Christmas Day, and I think everyone had a couple of drinks, and in fact, life should be amusing. So I just carried on, and I think I just dug a deeper and deeper hole with some of my answers, and apparently they were laughing more and more and more, and eventually I sort of became quite frustrated, I suppose might be the word, and I sort of went into my shell for a bit, and maybe 15-20 minutes, and then I thought, well, I've got to join the party come what may. So we started up again, and everyone thoroughly enjoyed my stupid comments. But no, I now realize how hard it is for people when you're in a situation with a lot of people. It doesn't matter whether it's a dinner party or whether it's a community thing that I went through a lot for 6 years, or in fact when we go to the races. Being inside with a lot of people is extremely difficult. We've had an occasion or two when we've been outside, and there's no doubt about it, if the weather is right, get outside, because you hear a hell of a lot more, except when you get a good dose of Tararua wind and the hearing aids start to clatter. But no, it's amazing how you can change things. Anne has changed my life through different things, especially the telephone that she produced for me, which has got a blaster on it, and I can now actually hear people, but they have to ring our home phone number. I'm hopeless on mobiles, although I can message on them.
Following on from that, Phillipa, you were saying the frustration that you experience because Roly's hearing is much, except when it fluctuates, it's worse again, but generally it's not great, and there's not a great day in terms of his ability to hear, and yet you now seem to be able to manage and coexist with this better than you probably did 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. Any comments to that?
Yeah, just being aware of things that I need to do to make it easier, reduce my frustration. He'd talk to me and I'd be in the kitchen or wherever, that he should get up to me, but in actual fact he'd spend his whole life getting up to me if it was like that, really. So I will go and stand in front of him and also when he's talking to other people, I will consciously make sure that I don't do anything, even the electric jug, boiling water, just little things like that, the fan on the stove, and just to make sure there are no distractions for him, because just knowing, it's just being aware.
So what was the turning point to reduce the frustration for you?
Coming to meet with you and getting some strategies that you can put in place, the changes that you can make. And also one of the other things that we do now is we will tell people, if for instance, as I said before, that if we're at the races in a big room the people who we go with know now that he will spend most of his time outside, and he's not being rude or a snob or anything like that. It just is easier for him. So that's one thing. Talking when we have people to dinner, we tend to have smaller numbers, maybe 4 people max, along with us. And just little things like that, using a round table rather than a long table. Yeah, because we felt it was hard for us to do, to accept that we needed to do that. It was something that another change that we could make by asking people to make sure that they were facing, that they would give us time, give Roly time to respond, and yeah, just to be aware. And now it's easy to do. We don't have any hesitation doing it, and we'll deliberately look at places where we. In fact, we went to a restaurant in town, which we find extremely noisy, a new restaurant, and we went there for brunch, and they suggested that we went and had the room off the side, which was absolutely fabulous. So just little things like that. If people are aware, they'll look at ways also that they can make it easier. So yes.
Yeah. And if you're confident to identify it, to say, look, do you have anywhere else, or where's the quietest table?
If we go into a cafe or restaurant, we always choose a table where it's away from everybody if we can.